What's going on, everyone?
Welcome to the Fyreside.
The Fyreside Roundtable.
Let's get fired up.
Welcome to the Fyreside.
It's coming. Sean B.
It's Aisha Thomas.
Jody Cedric. Bobby Bird.
Michael Gingras.
Neil Legend.
We are Speakfyre.
And this is the Fyreside Roundtable.
Roundtable? You gonna laugh at that one.
Earlier in the week, I had the great opportunity to be on a panel similar to this with Sean Hart. And a question was asked by Nate Furlong that is really, really kind of stuck in my head. And he said, look, he goes, ever since Trayvon Martin, I've been trying to understand and ask the right questions as a white man so that I can understand what my African-American brothers and sisters are going through. He goes, but the challenge is when I've asked the questions, it has either seemed insensitive or I'm viewed as a racist because I'm asking it and I'm not intending to ask it in the wrong way, but it comes across bad. And so he goes, I've almost gotten to the point where until now, where I've kind of given up because I can't get the experience. I can't get the answers that I've been seeking. So how do you bridge that gap when you're trying to have the dialogue, but you're coming across wrong, but the intent of your heart is going, I'm really trying to understand so that I can be the difference. So that's kind of
I'll say this. I'll say honestly, you probably have to ask the right person. It's really the right person who have the right understanding, because honestly, if you just asking your neighbor, your coworker, that's just mostly the average person of the day. And if they're going to respond saying that you're racist or insensitive or something like that, then I believe they don't have the right answer anyway, because they should use that time for a teaching moment. They should use that time to open the conversation to understand, because at the end of the day, we all have questions, just like how a white person have a question, African-American, black men, we have questions too, and we want to ask them questions. So it has to be open dialogue across the board. And I would just say this, and I'll throw it to somebody else, is when you have the conversation, when you ask the questions, have the conversation and have the conversation with your ears open, looking to understand the other person and not to respond in defense of what they just said. You have to have the conversation. You both have to be understanding to the other person's point of view to even just move forward to the next step.
I just want to kind of chime in on what Neil is saying, that there are lots of sensitive subjects in our lives, whether it's race, sexuality, and there are times that maybe we have an honest question, right? Like, hey, I'm really curious about this thing that I don't know, and the media doesn't quite give me that answer, right? Because that's where most of us will learn things that we don't have connection to. And we just have to find a way to find somebody in our lives who wants to have that conversation with us. So I'm a white man. That's obvious. But I'm sitting here with my great friends, and I could call any one of them and ask a question, right? So there are lots of things that are out there, whether it's in your head and you're like, hey, I just wonder. You don't just ask your coworker, because that's kind of wrong. You don't just ask your neighbor. That's kind of wrong. You got to go to somebody who you have a relationship with and say, Aisha, like, don't get me wrong. I love you, but could you help me? And she's going to help me because she knows I'm coming from a genuine place. If I just walk up to a coworker and say, hey, tell me about this, well, that almost feels attacking. It almost feels like I'm about to mock you with whatever you're going to say. So you need to go to someone who understands your heart before you exit your thought from your mouth.
I think what you're, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Aisha. Go ahead, please.
No, I was saying what you guys are saying is so true, is about building relationships. And do you have those relationships? I actually had a coworker that I work with at my organization, and I sent out an email because I know that my organization is mainly, Caucasian because of, of just the space I'm in. So I'm a master resiliency trainer. So I talk about readiness and I talk about having self-care and just having that overall resiliency. So I sent a message about empathy, what it is, how to build it. And she responded and she told me that she did just that. She went into a space, was like, hey guys, she was open and ready to learn, and they kind of just shunned her. And I felt so bad for her. Because she's been very open. Me and her have been on trips together. We've been in this organization for some time. And I was like, I'm sorry you dealt with that. I know from the interactions we had, it's been fine. But me and her had a relationship. We had some type of connection. And that's why it's so important that you are building relationships, because if you are talking to a random coworker, you haven't even built rapport with, you might get the response. And the reality is you might get a response from people who you do know that are upset, and maybe it's not the right time. But I don't want you to give up there. So don't give up if somebody says no. Ask someone else. I actually responded to her and I gave her 5 Netflix. I sent her a couple movies to watch, like When They See Us. Watch a couple movies. Watch, some of right now. What's it? Mercy, Just Mercy is available free on Amazon. Watch that. Also watch the 13th. Watch these and then let's have a conversation. Because she's like, I want to talk. I was like, great. Go watch this first. Get these perspectives. Then let's have a conversation. So yes, you might be hit with someone that's not interested, but there's so many. Amazon has a whole part where it's nothing but documentaries, things you can do to educate yourself. But I love what you guys are saying about building those relationships, because a lot of us we're in these bubbles, and sometimes our communities or our bubbles are just people that look like us. But sometimes it is good to kind of step outside the box, read a book from someone who doesn't look like you, connect with a coworker that might be different than what you're used to, and really build those relationships. So when it is time to have those conversations, you're not just saying, hey, Bob, let's have this conversation, but you ain't Bob, y'all ain't like that. So make sure you're building relationships, because I think by building relationships would also allow you to develop the empathy to utilize those active listening skills to really listen to what the person says. But do not try to have conversations with people you haven't even took time to connect with in the beginning. Start there.
Yeah, I think that's one of the power of that is so important, is trying to really, really connect. And I've shared this with Sean, and I shared Sean Brasfield, and also with Sean Hart. I never, until my Haitian son got his driver's license, I never feared for any of my kids being pulled over by a police officer. Never, ever. I never had experienced that kind of worry and concern and fear. But the moment my son was late one night, I'm like, oh, crud, did he get pulled over? And I'm like, the wrong day where he's frustrated, he's, discouraged, he's feeling like he's not loved, and he's in a dark place, and he gets pulled over by the wrong cop with the wrong attitude, and we're having a horrible story. I had never, ever, ever felt like that. And I think that, it was very eye-opening to me to go, you know what, now I have a very small taste of what my brothers, Sean and Neil and Sean Hart and other men are experiencing every time they get pulled over. They shouldn't have that kind of fear. Nobody should have that kind of fear of people that are supposed to protect and serve and love them and protect their communities. And so I love that you said, watch some of these shows and then go to a trusted friend that you have a relationship and be able to have an open dialogue, because when you start to connect and understand with a true heart for change, then we in our circle can be the change that we want to see in the world and lead that change outward, and that have it ripple across multiple, people and communities.
I think that's what we were. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, John. Go ahead.
No, I was just alluding to that's what kind of we were talking about a few days ago when you and I were talking, which kind of alludes back to what Aisha was saying when I was like, when we were agreed to let's do some research. Like when people say, hey, I want to know, I want to understand. And it's like, okay, well, before you just come at me and in your inquiry, try to do some research and reading yourself first. Like watch some of the documentaries, read a couple books, and then after that, because like you were saying, you could do the book work or like the research on different things, but then the experience part is the part that some people lack. Okay, I can see all that, I can do the book work, I can read, but then after that, then let me come to people who are outside of my circle, my normal circle, and let me ask them then, because then I'll be coming to the table with some kind of prior information as to the history of what people have been experiencing. Then I can kind of further, understand and ask the right questions and get the right information. Because one of the things that had bothered me was like when some people come at me and I'm like asking their questions and they want to know, I'm like, I get it, but it's like, what have you done first to kind of educate yourself? Because whenever there's anything out there, if you want to learn a new language, if you want to learn how to be a better cook, there are books and resources and all that stuff like that out there. You can read those things first, then kind of get into the kitchen and hands-on, get the experience. And then so I'm like, first kind of do that part and then come and have that conversation with me, because then you'll be able to kind of have an idea of what's going on and what we experienced. Then you can say, okay, hey, I understand I did this, but like, here's some more questions. Because I got to a point where I got flustered and tired of like teaching my people who I know, who I'm familiar with, who are, Caucasian, and they're like one to know. And it's like, after a while, it's like you just kind of get burned out. And I guess I can't really frame it and articulate it the way I want to, but it's like after a while, you're like, look, can you at least try to do some footwork on it first before, you ask me, and then we kind of rock? Because I can come to the table discussion more open that way than just, just popping off with a question and stuff like that, and you hadn't done any kind of, prior work, I guess. So
don't make the. Go ahead, Cornelius. Go ahead.
No, it's just a question. I was going to ask. So when you actually encounter that person who has the questions but do not want to put in the work to study, how do you respond to that? And that's anybody can answer that.
I would give them the tools. Like I said, I gave them the tools and gave them some, I've just really been into documentaries. So I was like, hey, watch the Innocence Files, watch Just Mercy, watch 13th, When They See Us, which is a true story, because I always wanted to attach it to true stories. Watch these items, utilize these resources. Also with social media, with YouTube, you can there are people that can sit and watch this conversation here and get some background and get some ideas of what to tap into. But do that first, because you don't want your African-American person in your workspace to be now the I call like the black mascot. Now anything related, anything related to diversity, let's give it to Sean. Hey, Sean, let's ask Sean the question. Hey, Sean, what's going on, Sean? And I love that, because I learned that from one of the leaders in my organization. She told someone in our leadership, hey, don't turn me into the mascot. I don't want to be the person having to ask these diversity questions. You ask the question as the Caucasian gentleman. You be the person to take lead, because they're going to expect it from me. They're going to expect me to ask, hey, what do you think about diversity? What do you think about, inclusion? So you be the person. Don't have that person turn into the mascot. Do the research yourself, and then yourself can be like, okay, I understand now. I might have an idea of what I can do, what to take action with.
Yeah. I agree with that. So more so, I do have some Caucasian friends, and a lot of them asking questions. And then, they go away a day, and then they come back another day, ask questions, but yet and still they haven't put in the work since the first time we talked. So, like, how do I continue to respond when I'm knowing that you're not even taking serious what I have given you the first time? That's really my question. How do I continue to respond after I'm seeing they're not putting in the work to even learn?
There's something that's really hitting me, and it's kind of a combination of two insights that I've received recently. One was Sean actually shared, it's like my skin shouldn't be a weapon, right? But yet every day I can't change my skin color. And I wonder if there is, in some ways, and I'm really kind of thinking through this as I've been having different conversations, I think racism is on African American hearts and minds all the time. So it's almost a cultural thing of going, why do I have to fight against my skin? Why do I have to fight who I am? Whereas we as white Americans, we don't even think about it. And so when we're going, look, help me understand, help me create a bridge, what can I do? It's coming from a place of where it's not always on our mind, but now it's in our face. And we're going, whoa, there's a real problem here. My brothers, who I love, they're facing something that I'm not facing every single day. So how can it's almost a cultural difference that we need to figure out how we become one culture instead of multiple, but yet still embrace the diversity and uniqueness and beauty of each one of us. And so I think that's part of the challenge that we're facing, as I think, and I'm kind of thinking at it dynamically here. It's like, how do we bridge that gap so that, because every one of it's like Sean said, he goes, I hate it when people say I don't see color, right? Because they're dismissing my experience as a black man. But when a white guy says that, what they're really trying to say is, I don't judge on color. I see you, but they don't have the reference of going, I don't understand everything you've gone through. And so I'm trying to connect, but I'm failing because I haven't had similar experiences, and I'm trying to do. So how do we bridge that gap?
Whew, that was another awesome episode of the Speakfyre podcast. Thank y'all for sticking around for this long, but I got a question for you. Have you ever thought about starting your own podcast? See, when I was trying to get this podcast off the ground, I had a lot of questions, like how do I record an episode? How do I get my show to apps? Like, do I have to do it individually, or can I just have one place that does everything for me? And most importantly, how do I make money from my podcast? Is that even an option? Well, honestly, y'all, your answer is Anchor. Anchor is the one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing your podcast. Best of all, it is 100% free and ridiculously easy to use. And now, Anchor can match you with great sponsors that want to advertise on your podcast. Yes, you. That means you can get paid to make the podcast. You can get paid to podcast the right way. In fact, that's exactly what I'm doing right now by reading this ad. If you want to get in on this, if you want to make your podcast a reality and you want your success and your word to be a thing, man, you already know. Hop over to Anchor and give it a start. You won't regret it. Catch y'all in the next episode. Peace. We are Speakfyre. Who are we? We are a collective of inspirational, motivational, life-guiding speakers here to help you make your best life available and real today. For everyone that's looking for anything and everything leadership, you have to check out my guy, Michael Gingras, over at Leadership Fyre. For my youth that are coming up, for those of you that have questions that need answers, go hit up Sean B. He's the host of Young Fire, killing the game every single Monday. For those of you that have questions that go a little deeper, for those of you that need that internal fire inside of you, not just sparked, but you need those flames fanned, go check out Aisha Thomas with Internal Fire. For my fathers, y'all, you are the real MVP. Go check out my guy, Jody Cedric, the host of Father's Fire. For my champions, for my people that need to be the champion of not only their day, but their entire life, man, you'll gotta check out my man, Neil Legend, over at Champion Fire. For my students, doesn't matter if we're talking elementary, middle school, high school, college, my graduate students, all of you, for everything student empowerment, student leadership, and student productivity, tune in to Speakfyre with me, your host, Bobby Bird. We are Speakfyre, live every Monday morning, 4 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. You gonna wake up with us? Let's get it.
I am excited to bring you my new book, Trendsetter, 7 Steps to Radically Stand Out to Be the Best You. This book details my journey of coming to the United States and being excited to embrace the American culture. But unfortunately, my culture was not accepted, and I found myself being bullied as a young girl. And in this process, I decided that I wanted to disconnect from my culture to be more accepted into American culture. And through that process, I got so depressed from trying to fit in that I attempted suicide my freshman year in high school. So this book talks about the journey of what I did to become radically transformed to be the strong woman I am today. This book is something that's really going to enable the reader to understand and embrace who they are, embrace what makes them special, and become radically transformed. Get your copy today at becomingatrendsetter.com. Again, that is becomingatrendsetter.com, or check it out at my website at aishathomas.org.